The cantina was dark and smoky. Strange music played from old speakers in the corners. Aliens from a dozen different worlds sat at tables, drinking and talking in low voices. The air smelled of spices and fuel and something that might have been food. Sat alone at a corner table. His blue skin was covered in scars. Where his left arm should have been, there was metal and wires. One of his 4 eyes was missing, replaced by a red cybernetic lens. He held a glass of strong drink with his remaining good hand. 3 young aliens approached his table. They looked nervous but excited. The first was barely old enough to leave his home planet. His green scales still had the bright color of youth. The second was a female with silver hair and large black eyes. The third was something didn't recognize, maybe from one of the Outer Rim worlds that joined the coalition after the war. "Excuse me, sir," they said. His voice shook a little. "Are you really the war hero from the human conflict?" Looked up at them with his good eyes. He took a long drink before answering. "War hero," he laughed, but there was no joy in it. "Is that what they call us now?" They stepped forward. "We heard you fought in the big battles against the humans. We wanted to hear your stories." "Stories?" Set down his glass hard. Some of the liquid splashed onto the metal table. "You want war stories, do you? Like the ones they put in the entertainment vids?" The young aliens nodded eagerly. They pulled out chairs and sat down without being invited. The unknown species thought it might be a wave to the bartender for drinks. "We've never seen a human," they said. "They say the war ended 20 years ago, but humans still don't leave their home systems much. Some people say they're just myths now, that maybe they never existed at all." Stared at the kid. 20 years. Had it really been that long? Sometimes it felt like yesterday. Sometimes it felt like a lifetime ago. "Myths," he repeated. "You think humans are myths?" "Well, maybe not myths," they said quickly, "but the stories people tell, they sound impossible. They say humans could fight for days without sleep, that they could eat anything and survive in any environment, that they never gave up no matter what." The bartender brought drinks to the table, ordered another for himself, the strong kind that made his throat burn and helped him forget things he didn't want to remember. "You want to know about humans?" asked. He looked at each of the young faces around his table. "You really want to know?" "Yes, sir," they said together. Was quiet for a long time. He watched the ice melt in his drink. He listened to the music and the conversations around them. Finally, he spoke. "I was a shock trooper," he said. "1st Infantry Division, Coalition Space Command. I fought in 3 major campaigns against human forces. Station, Titan's Eye and Saul's Gate." The young aliens leaned forward. Their eyes were bright with excitement. "I joined the military when I was your age," continued. "Young and stupid and full of anger about things that didn't matter. The coalition told us humans were a threat. They said human expansion into our space had to be stopped. They said it would be quick and clean. A few battles and the humans would surrender." He laughed again, that same bitter sound. "Quick and clean, that's what they said." "How long did the war last?" they asked. 7 years, 7 long bloody years," touched the scars on his neck. "I lost my arm at my eye at Titan's Eye, and my faith in everything at Saul's Gate." "But you won," they said. "The coalition won the war." Stared at her. Did we really win?" The question hung in the air. The young aliens looked confused. "The war ended," they said slowly. "There was a peace treaty. Humans stay in their space, we stay in ours." "Yes," said. "There was a treaty. But you ask the wrong questions, children. You should ask why the war ended. You should ask who really won." He finished his drink and ordered another. The alcohol was starting to work. The memories were getting clearer and hazier at the same time. "You want war stories," he said. "You want to hear about brave soldiers and glorious battles and heroes who never give up. You want entertainment." "We want to understand," they said quietly. "We want to know what really happened." Studied her face. Maybe there was something real there. Maybe these kids could handle more than pretty lies. "All right," he said. "I'll tell you about humans, but you need to understand something first. This isn't entertainment. These aren't heroic stories about brave coalition soldiers fighting monster enemies. This is about the day I learned what real fear means." The cantina seemed to get quieter. The music seemed farther away. "You want to know about humans? You sure you can handle the truth?" The three young aliens nodded. They looked less excited now, more serious. Raised his glass. "Then let me tell you about the first time I saw a human die, and why that terrified me more than watching them live." He drank, the alcohol burned. The memories came flooding back. "It starts with what we thought we knew." Set his glass down and stared into the dark liquid. The young aliens waited. They had stopped talking. Even the had stopped fidgeting with his drink. "Station," began. "My first real battle. I was 23 years old and thought I knew everything about war." He touched the metal where his left arm used to be. The station was important. Humans used it as a supply depot and communications hub. Intelligence said maybe 3,000 human soldiers were stationed there. We brought 30,000 troops. 30,000 against 3,000, they asked. "That seems like too many." "That's what I thought too," said. "But command said humans were tricky. They said we needed overwhelming force to make sure we won quickly." He paused to drink. The memory was coming back clearly now, too clearly. "We surrounded the station completely. 50 coalition ships against their 12. We cut off all supply lines. No food coming in, no fuel, no medical supplies. Nothing. We sent them a message demanding surrender." "Did they surrender?" they asked. Looked at her. "What do you think?" She didn't answer. "Their commander sent back a message," continued. "Just 2 words in coalition standard. Come take." The old soldier smiled, but his eyes stayed cold. "We thought it was funny. Stupid humans too proud to see the obvious. We expected them to give up within a week, maybe 2 if they were stubborn." He signaled the bartender for another drink. His movements were careful, controlled. The cybernetic arm moved smoothly but differently than flesh. Week 1 passed. We sent bombardment shells at their outer defenses. They fired back. Normal warfare stuff. Week 2, we cut their power grid. They switched to backup generators. Week 3, we jammed their communications. They started using light signals. "How long did you wait?" they asked. 8 months, said quietly. 8 months. The young alien stared at him. 8 months of siege was almost unheard of. Most species surrendered after losing basic supplies for a few days. "After the first month, we knew something was wrong," continued. "Our sensors showed they were running out of food. Medical scans showed malnutrition in their soldiers, but they kept fighting." He took a long drink. "Month 2, we detected the first bodies." Bodies. Human soldiers had started dying. Starvation, disease, injuries that couldn't be treated without proper medical supplies. We expected surrender announcements any day. His good eye focused on something far away. Instead, we started detecting strange energy signatures from the station. "What kind of energy?" they asked. "Charges. The humans were building weapons, but our scans showed they didn't have raw materials for manufacturing. We couldn't understand where they were getting metal and components." He paused. When he spoke again, his voice was quieter. "Then we intercepted their internal communications. We learned what they were using." The cantina seemed to hold its breath. "They're dead," said. "They were using their dead." They made a shocked sound. That's not possible." "Bones for weapon frames, metal from cybernetic implants for circuits, organic compounds from—" He stopped. "Well, you don't need details." The young aliens looked sick. None of them touched their drinks. "But that wasn't the worst part," continued. "The worst part was how they did it." He finished his drink and ordered another. His hands were steady, but the young aliens could see something in his remaining eye, something like old fear. Every time they launched one of these improvised missiles at our ships, they would broadcast something first: a name, a age, a family. "What do you mean?" they whispered. They told us who they were firing at us. "This is Corporal Sarah, age 24, from New Shanghai Colony. She had a daughter named Emma." Then they would fire her remains at our flagship. They covered her mouth. "That's horrible." "This is Private Mike, age 19, from Earth's Ireland province. He played violin and wanted to be a teacher." Then they would launch him at our command ship. His voice became mechanical, like he was reading from a report. Every single missile came with a story, a life, a person who had been alive and laughing and dreaming, and was now a weapon aimed at us. "Why?" they asked. "Why would they do that?" "Psychological warfare," said, "but not the kind we understood. Most species use fear to break enemy morale. Humans used something else." "What?" "Respect." The word came out like it tasted bitter. They made us know who we were fighting. They made every death personal. Every missile that hit our ships carried someone's son or daughter or parent. He drank again. The alcohol wasn't helping anymore. By month 4, we had soldiers refusing to fire back. By month 5, we had mass desertions. Not because they were afraid to die, but because they were afraid to kill people they knew stories about. "How did it end?" they asked. Month 8, we detected one final transmission from the station. A single human voice, very weak, very tired. He said, "This is Lieutenant Commander James Harrison, age 41, from Luna City. I have 2 sons and a wife who makes terrible coffee. I am the last." Set his glass down. It was empty again. Then silence. No more energy signatures, no more life signs. We waited 3 days to make sure it wasn't a trick, then sent boarding parties. "Was he really the last?" they asked. "Yes, we found him in the command center, dead of starvation, slumped over his communications console. Around him were personal belongings from every soldier who had died. Pictures, letters, small treasures. He had collected them all." The young alien said nothing. 3,000 humans held off 30,000 coalition troops for 8 months. They never surrendered. They never retreated. They just ended. Stood up. He was unsteady on his feet. "That's when we learned that humans don't just fight with weapons. They fight with their ghosts, and their ghosts are very, very good at war." He looked at the 3 young faces, but that was nothing compared to what they did when cornered. Sat back down heavily. The alcohol was affecting him now, but his memories were getting sharper, not hazier. Sometimes he wished it worked the other way around. "Titan's Eye," he said. 6 months after, they promoted me to sergeant after that first battle. Said I had learned important lessons about human psychology." They leaned forward. "What was Titan's Eye?" "A research station. Humans were developing new weapons there, or so intelligence said. The plan was simple: fast strike, capture the facility, take prisoners for interrogation." Rubbed his temples with his good hand. "It should have been easy, really easy. We had the element of surprise, better technology, more soldiers. The humans never saw us coming." "What went wrong?" they asked. "Nothing went wrong. That was the problem." He looked at her with his cybernetic eye. The red light seemed brighter in the dim cantina. Everything went exactly as planned. The young aliens looked confused. "We attacked at dawn, station time, caught them sleeping. Most humans surrendered immediately when they saw our forces. No resistance, no fighting, they just gave up." Ordered another drink. The bartender was starting to look worried about how much the old soldier was consuming. 47 humans captured, 3 dead in the initial assault. We secured the station in less than an hour. Command was very pleased. "That sounds like a victory," they said. "Yes, it was a perfect victory, textbook operation." His voice was flat. "We put the prisoners in the detention level. Standard cells, electronic locks, force fields, completely secure. He drank. The humans seemed broken, defeated. Some were crying, others just stared at the walls. Their leader, a woman named Dr. Martinez, kept asking about her research team, wanted to make sure they were being treated well. That seems normal, they said. Normal for most species, yes. When you're captured, you worry about your people. You try to cooperate with your captors. You hope for prisoner exchange or rescue. Touched his missing eye, but humans aren't most species. What happened? For 3 days, everything was quiet. The humans ate the food we gave them. They answered our questions during interrogation. Dr. Martinez even helped us understand some of her research equipment. He paused. On day 4, I was doing my security rounds. I noticed something strange. What? Smell. The detention levels smelled wrong, like metal and acid and something organic. I thought maybe there was a plumbing problem. The old soldier's face grew dark. I was checking the cells when I saw it, the walls. What about the walls? They were covered in patterns, scratches and stains that looked random at first, but when I looked closer, he shook his head. The humans had been bleeding themselves, using their fingernails and teeth to scratch into the metal walls, using their blood to etch chemical formulas. The young aliens looked sick again. Not just random scratches, continued. Precise calculations, engineering diagrams, molecular structures. They had been working, all of them. Every human in every cell was contributing to some kind of project. What kind of project? I didn't know then. I called for backup and started questioning them, but they just smiled. Dr. Martinez said something I'll never forget. We've been listening. Listening to what? Everything, footsteps in the corridors, air circulation patterns, power fluctuations, guard rotations. They had been mapping the entire station using just sound and airflow. Cybernetic eye flickered. While we thought they were broken and defeated, they had been memorizing every detail of our security systems. How is that possible? Human brains process information differently than ours. They can hold massive amounts of data in their memory and make connections we can't see. And they had been sharing information through micro-movements and tiny sounds we couldn't detect. He finished his drink. That night they escaped. How? The acid they had made from their blood ate through the electronic locks. They used bones from their food to short-circuit the force field generators. Metal torn from their clothing became weapons. Laughed bitterly. But that wasn't the worst part. The worst part was what they had done to themselves. What do you mean? They had been deliberately making themselves sick, eating small amounts of toxic material from the station's environment, building up infections, poisoning themselves with local parasites. They made a disgusted sound. Why would they do that? Biological warfare. When they broke out, they spread their contaminated blood throughout the ventilation system. Within hours, half our crew was sick with diseases our medical systems had never seen. That's insane, they whispered. Insane like a human, agreed. While our soldiers were dying from mysterious illnesses, the humans took control of the research labs. And then they released what they had been working on before we captured them. Experimental bioweapons. Things they had created using modified bacteria from their own digestive systems. Stood up again. This time he was steadier. The station fell not to an outside attack, but to an uprising we thought was impossible. 47 prisoners defeated 800 guards and crew. How many humans survived the escape? 12. Dr. Martinez wasn't one of them. She stayed behind to make sure the others got away. We found her in the main lab, dead from the same bioweapon she had released. The cantina was very quiet. Even the background music seemed muted. That's when I learned that capturing a human doesn't mean you have control. It just means they're closer to your vital systems. He looked at each of the young aliens. We had their bodies. We thought that meant we had them. We were fools. Picked up his glass, realized it was empty, and set it back down. You think that's the worst? That was before I saw what they do when you threaten their young. The bartender brought another drink without being asked. The old soldier nodded his thanks but didn't drink immediately. His good eye stared at something only he could see. Year 5 of the war, he said finally. I was a lieutenant by then, squad leader. We were doing patrol duty in the outer systems when we got an emergency call. What kind of emergency? They asked. Her voice was quieter now. The earlier excitement was gone. Civilian transport. Human ship carrying families from one colony to another. Our cruiser intercepted it during routine inspection. Took a small sip. Standard procedure. Check cargo, verify identification, make sure they weren't carrying military supplies. That sounds routine, they said. It was routine, should have been simple. He set the glass down carefully. The transport captain cooperated fully, sent over passenger manifests, cargo lists, everything we requested. How many humans were on board? 238. Men, women, children. Families evacuating from a border colony that was getting too close to the fighting. They frowned. Why evacuate civilians? I thought humans fought to the end. Military humans fight to the end, corrected. But these were families, parents with small children. They were just trying to get somewhere safe. He picked up his glass but didn't drink. Command decided to take them prisoner. For exchange purposes, they said. Civilians were valuable for negotiating with human authorities. That makes sense, they said. Yes, it made perfect sense. Completely legal under coalition war law. Humane treatment, proper facilities, eventual prisoner exchange. Very civilized. Cybernetic eye dimmed slightly. We docked with their transport and sent boarding parties. The humans cooperated. No resistance. Parents held their children close, but they followed our instructions. What went wrong? Protocol. We had to separate them for processing. Adults in one area, children in another. Standard procedure to prevent coordinated escape attempts. The old soldier finally drank. That's when everything changed. Changed how? The moment we started separating families, I saw something I had never seen before. Something in the adults' faces. He paused, searching for words. You know how most species react when threatened, fight or flight response. Fear, anger, panic, basic survival instincts. The young aliens nodded. Human parents don't have fight or flight response when their children are threatened. They have something else. Something. He shook his head. There's no word for it in any coalition language. What did they do? Nothing at first. They let us separate them. Mothers kissed their children goodbye. Fathers whispered reassurances, very calm, very controlled. His voice became distant, but I was watching their eyes. That was my mistake. What was in their eyes? Math, cold, precise calculations. They weren't panicking, they were planning. The cantina seemed colder suddenly. Even the other patrons had stopped talking. We put the adults in cargo bay 7, children in bay 12, 2 levels apart, heavy security between them, completely secure. And then I learned what human parents are really capable of. Stood and walked to the bar. He ordered the strongest drink they had. When he returned, his hands were shaking slightly. It started small. A woman named Sarah broke her restraints, metal cables rated for twice human strength. She snapped them with her bare hands. How? Adrenaline, human stress hormone. It can temporarily increase their physical capabilities beyond normal limits, but that wasn't the frightening part. What was frightening? She broke the restraint silently. No sound, no alert to the guards. Then she started working on the other prisoners' bonds. Drank deeply. Within 10 minutes, 20 adults were free, but they didn't rush the doors. They didn't attack the guards. They waited. For what? For the others to get into position, every parent on that ship was communicating somehow. Micro-expressions, tiny sounds, movements so small our sensors couldn't detect them. The old soldier touched his neck scars. A father named David got the attention of the guards by faking a heart attack. While they were distracted, a mother called Maria bit through a power cable with her teeth. Her teeth. Human dental structure is designed for their omnivorous diet, much stronger than we realized. She severed a main power line and caused a section blackout. Then they escaped. No, then they began the most terrifying coordinated attack I have ever witnessed. Cybernetic eye flickered red. Every parent moved simultaneously, not randomly, not in panic, with perfect timing and precision. How many guards were there? 40 coalition troops, armed and armored, against unarmed civilian humans. And the humans treated us like an engineering problem to be solved. One father threw himself at a guard's weapon to jam it, while two mothers disarmed him from behind. Each human sacrifice served a specific tactical purpose. The young aliens stared at him in horror. They didn't just fight. They strategized while bleeding. A woman named let herself be shot 3 times while she positioned herself to block our line of fire to the children's bay. Did they reach their children? Oh, they reached them. But here's what still gives me nightmares. The children knew they were coming. How could they know? Because human families plan for everything. Even 6-year-old children had been taught emergency protocols. When the power went out, those kids immediately began operating escape pod systems with the efficiency of trained soldiers. Finished his drink. By the time we regained control, 37 children had escaped in pods. The parents, most were dead or dying, but they had saved their young. How many survived? Adults, 12, children, all of them that wanted to escape. The cantina was silent, except for the hum of the ventilation system. That day I learned that human pack bonds don't just make them willing to die for each other. They make them think 10 steps ahead while bleeding out. They make them coordinate impossible victories through pure love. Stood again, steadier this time. But even that pales compared to the day we learned what humans are really capable of when they stop holding back. Didn't sit down this time. He stood at the table, swaying slightly but focused. The 3 young aliens watched him with wide eyes. None of them had touched their drinks in the last hour. Saul's Gate, he said. The final battle, year 7 of the war. I was a captain by then, commanding my own ship in the Coalition's ultimate assault. Ultimate assault, they whispered. 500 ships, the largest fleet in Coalition history. Every species contributed their best vessels and crews. We were going to end the war once and for all by attacking Earth's solar system. Cybernetic eye glowed brighter in the cantina's dim light. Intelligence said humans were nearly defeated. Their colonies were cut off. Their military was scattered. Their economy was collapsing. One final push and they would surrender. But they didn't. Oh, they surrendered, eventually, but not for the reasons we expected. The old soldier ordered one last drink. His movements were deliberate, controlled. The human defense fleet was pathetic. 50 ships, maybe 60. Most were converted civilian vessels. They were outnumbered 10-1. That should have been easy, they said. It should have been. Our ships were better armed, better armored with superior technology. We had been fighting humans for 7 years. We understood their tactics, their weapons, their strategies. Took a sip. We were confident, overconfident maybe, but we had good reason to be. Every previous battle had shown us that Coalition technology was superior to human equipment. What changed? Everything. The moment we entered the Sol system, our sensors detected something impossible. What? Energy readings we had never seen before. Weapon signatures that didn't match any known technology. ships that moved in ways that violated physics as we understood it. The old soldier's good eye focused on the young aliens. That's when we realized humans hadn't been losing the war, they had been learning it. Learning. Every battle we won, every ship we destroyed, every prisoner we took, the humans had been studying us, analyzing our technology, understanding our weaknesses. Set his glass down hard. They hadn't been trying to win battles, they had been trying to win the war. How? By becoming us, by becoming better than us. The cantina seemed to hold its breath. Their first attack came from ships that looked like converted freighters, weapons that appeared to be improvised. We thought it would be easy to destroy them. And the weapons weren't improvised. They were innovations, technology beyond anything we had seen. Humans had taken our designs and improved them in ways our best scientists said were impossible. Began walking slowly around the table. Energy cannons that could adjust their frequency mid-flight. Shields that actually got stronger when hit. Ships that could repair themselves using molecular reconstruction. That's impossible, they said. That's what we thought, but humans don't care what's impossible. They care about what works. How were they doing it? We found out later. Every human in their society was part of the war effort. Not just soldiers. Everyone. Children doing quantum calculations for weapon design. Artists creating camouflage patterns that fooled our sensors. Musicians developing communication codes we couldn't break. The old soldier stopped walking and faced them. Their entire species had become a research and development project. Research into what? How to beat us, how to beat everyone. They weren't just defending their solar system, they were preparing for the next threat and the next one after that. Drank again, but the real horror came when they stopped pretending to be like us. What do you mean? All this time humans had been fighting with limitations, using technology we could understand, following rules of warfare that made sense to us, being civilized. His cybernetic eye dimmed. Then they decided to stop being civilized. What did they do? They showed us what they were really capable of, what they had been holding back. The young aliens leaned forward. Our flagship suddenly lost all power, not damaged, not destroyed, just turned off. Every system, every weapon, every life support function, dead. How? They had learned to manipulate matter at the atomic level. They didn't destroy our ship. They convinced it to stop existing as a functional machine. His voice became quiet. Then they did the same thing to 10 more ships, then 20. They weren't using weapons anymore. They were using understanding. Understanding of how matter behaves, how energy flows, how reality works at the deepest level. They had learned to change the rules. The old soldier finished his drink. That's when our admiral ordered full retreat. You retreated. We ran, 500 of the coalition's best ships, running from 60 converted human freighters, because we realized something terrible. What? Humans weren't just defending themselves. They were holding back. The entire war, 7 years of fighting, they could have ended it at any time, but they chose not to. Why? Because they wanted to learn everything we could teach them first. They wanted to understand not just how to beat us, but how to beat anyone who might threaten them in the future. Touched his scars. The peace negotiations started 3 days later, not because we defeated them, not because they defeated us, because they made it clear that continued fighting would result in the complete extinction of all coalition species. They said that. They didn't need to say it, they demonstrated it. One small asteroid in empty space. They made it cease to exist, not exploded, not vaporized, it just stopped being. The cantina was silent. The peace treaty wasn't mercy. It was humans deciding that we were no longer a threat worth exterminating. Looked at each young face around the table. The war didn't end because we made peace with humanity. It ended because humanity made peace with the idea of letting us live. He turned and walked toward the cantina's exit. At the door, he paused. That's why humans don't leave their home systems much anymore. Not because they're afraid of us, because we're afraid of them, and they're polite enough to let us pretend we won. The door closed behind him. The three young aliens sat in stunned silence, staring at their untouched drinks and trying to process what they had learned about the species that had chosen to let them exist.